So, showrunner Ryan Condal officially responded to George R. R. Martin dragging the toxic changes, that's what George said, toxic changes that have been made from book to show when it comes to House of the Dragon. And honestly, I think the response is kind of weird. I said this about a previous response that HBO gave to, or just about the entire George R. R. Martin situation, or how George feels. Like these responses have been kind of weird and dismissive, so I want to talk about that. All right, so they shared this really cute video of Emma Darcy just telling the fans that they're officially starting filming and production, but I can't even enjoy it for real because I just think these responses to George they're just weird. They're just weird to me. All right. So this is coming from Entertainment Weekly. The link to this article will be in my description as usual. So let's get into it. I will start to read a little bit, but we're going to jump around a lot and just cut through. I'm not reading the whole thing. Like, I'm just reading the part that applies to this video. Y'all go check out the full article. All right. So Ryan Condal appreciates your patience. The showrunner behind House of the Dragon knows that much of his audience is foaming at the mouth to see all-out warfare, Targaryen versus Targaryen, dragon versus dragon, a nuclear level battle for the Iron Throne. They could smell the blood from season 2's dogfight over Rook's Rest, which was good. And after watching the pieces slowly fall into place, they are hungry for more. So I guess after everybody was talking about that underwhelming season 2 finale, he coming here talking about, I will say that the war this season goes very hot very, very quickly. I think the people that were waiting for all of the horrible, brutal, pitiless bloodshed will be getting it in copious amounts. And so I'm gonna skip around. It says, despite the ambitious planning, a storm cloud still lurks. In a blog post published late August to his Not a Blog live journal, Martin, the creator of Game of Thrones, signaled to his audience that he needed to address everything that's gone wrong with House of the Dragon. He then published a follow-up days later in September criticizing the adaptation, particularly the choices to omit certain characters and approach key scenes differently. Martin, who praised the Other Thrones prequel adaptation, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, pulled the post within hours, but his words, like everything on the internet, spread like wildfire. Condal addresses the post for the first time, telling Entertainment Weekly he didn't see it himself, but was told about it. And so I'm already annoyed, because, so you're telling me you didn't read the author's reaction to your Caesar, to what you're doing? And firstly, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Secondly, if you truly didn't read what the author said about it, I think that would be kind of worse than lying that you haven't read it, girl. Okay, everybody on the internet seen it, but you the showrunner ain't seen it? All right, I don't buy it. He said, it was disappointing. I will simply say I've been a fan of A Song of Ice and Fire for almost 25 years now, and working on the show has been truly one of the greatest privileges of not only my career as a writer, but my life as a fan of science fiction and fantasy. George himself is a monument, a literary icon, in addition to a personal hero of mine, and was heavily influential on me coming up as a writer. And then he goes on to talk about how Fire and Blood isn't a traditional narrative. And I already told y'all that I do not like how they take this unreliable narrator, or we're getting different perspectives on the events in Fire and Blood because of the narration, because of how George wrote it. I don't like how they take that and be like, since it's kind of incomplete or just not traditional, we can just do whatever we want with it. No, George was expecting people to use context clues, use their brain, use the details of the story, use clues, context clues to make your own assumptions about what happened. If Mushroom said this person said this, and this person that said this, but then you look in his world after those events, and you can see certain things are there, are not there, certain details are there, are not there, languages, whatever, cultures change. Based off of all the detail that you have, look back in Fire and Blood, look back in the histories, and make a smart, educated guess based off of the perspectives that you have of what happened. It don't mean that you could just do whatever you want. You know what I mean? This is what he said about Fire and Blood. It's this incomplete history, and it requires a lot of joining of the dots and a lot of invention as you go along the way. And it's just like, okay, I think it does require connecting of the dots and probably embellishment, moving things around a little bit, but to completely change vital parts of the stuff, you know what I mean? Vital parts of the stuff that affect arcs, that affect the entire theme of show. You see what I'm saying? I just, it's just so strange to me. This response is so strange for me. And so I want to go back a little bit, because then we're going to dissect this response even further, but I want to go back a little bit to where he's like, oh, George is my personal hero and all that. I think it starts to get a little murky for me, because I'm like, if this person is your personal hero, I just think this entire thing would be handled differently. Even if you couldn't understand why George was mad, which I think is stupid, that like, if you can't understand why George was mad, but like, even if you couldn't understand why he was mad, like, if this person is your personal hero and you're a fan of his work, I just feel like the way HBO responded, the way Ryan responded would be different. Like I said, even if you still think he's like weird and wrong for not liking how you adapted or barely adapted, adapted his work, like, I just think it would have been approached differently. Now, about these changes, I remember reading George's blog and covering it on this channel, like the one that he deleted. You can find that video of me talking about it in my description box. By the way, there was another, like, he was talking about it again in 2022, or he was talking about before, I should say, in 2022, where he talked about legitimate changes versus illegitimate changes. Really quick, I'm gonna go through it really quick. So, according to George, legitimate changes. Let's talk about legitimate changes. Martin acknowledged that some changes are necessary due to practical constraints, such as adapting The Last Defender of Camelot, an episode, right, for The Twilight Zone, where he had to choose between horses and an elaborate set. And so that, to me, that's a big change. Like, okay, do I have a bunch of these horses, or do I just spend the money on an elaborate set? And so what he ended up doing was consulting with the original author to make the decision, and the decision was made to go with the elaborate set rather than the horses. So this decision was based on the logistical challenges and costs involved in using horses, right? Because obviously that's going to cost a lot. And it aligned with the vision for the production. The choice helped maintain the production's integrity while accommodating the practical limitations of the show. And so he said that's a change no author wants to, especially if you had horses in this battle, and now because of production you can't have the horses. No author wants to make that decision, like, oh, I got to take all these horses out. But even then, even still, George is like, well, because of TV, because of the restraints, he still considers those kinds of changes to be legitimate. So to position George like he just has no idea. You know what I mean? He has no idea. He's just being so unreasonable. He doesn't know what it takes to make a show like this. We have limited time and money. Oh, he's doing too much. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that he's being unreasonable, especially as an author who had to witness his work be butchered in Game of Thrones season 7 and 8, and you could argue even before that, but especially the last, oh my gosh, especially last season. You know what I mean? Yes, I understand he did sell the rights and all that stuff, but does that mean that he can't have an opinion? You know? So anyway, the article goes on, and he says, Ryan says, I will simply say I made every effort to include George in the adaptation process. I really did over the years. And we really enjoyed a mutually fruitful, I thought, really strong collaboration for a long time. But at some point, as we got deeper down the road, he just became unwilling to acknowledge the practical issues at hand in a reasonable way. And so, given what George has, like I just told you, what George said about, like, that was a drastic change from horses in a battle to absolutely none, but we needed a set. George is saying that even in the face of decisions like that, he's fine because he understands that changes have to be made. Do you know that if someone like that is complaining about the changes that you made, today's stuff, do you know how bad the changes have to George to me seems like a person who's realistic about the TV industry and understands that things have to change. But he's looking at y'all and saying that this don't make no sense even with that in mind. Now, Ryan is talking about, oh, well, when me and George started, we had a strong collaboration. Da da da. We're really doing it when it comes to collaboration. So I don't know what went wrong. In his deleted post, George says this, and I want you to pay attention to every word. When Ryan Condal first told me what he meant to do ages ago, back in 2022, he's talking about Maylor not being included. I argued against it for all these reasons that he listed above. Not going to read the entire deleted post. Go and check out my other video to go through it. George said, I did not argue long or with much heat, however. The change weakened the sequence, I felt, but only a bit. And Ryan had what seemed to be practical reasons for it. They did not want to deal with casting another child, especially a 2-year-old toddler. Kids that young will inevitably slow down production, and there would be budget implications. Budget was already an issue. It made sense to save money wherever we could. Moreover, Ryan assured me that we were not losing Prince Maylor, simply postponing him. Queen Helena could still give birth to him in season 3, presumably after getting with child late in season 2. That made sense to me, so I withdrew my objections and acquiesced to the change. And so, like, to me, some of the issue seems to be not only that some of these changes are extremely illegitimate in George's eyes, like Maylor not being there, like, but y'all are telling him things like, oh, don't worry, Maylor could come in. Maylor will be brought in season 3, don't worry. But then that's not even happening either. You see what I'm saying? So not only are you changing this man's work like crazy, but you're telling him, oh yeah, we got you in season 3, and that's not happening. So I don't know how, like, anybody who's especially if you're an author of this stuff, you're a creator of this stuff, can deal with all this stuff and just be expected to just shut up. Like, that's kind of what it seems like HBO and Ryan want this man to do, just be like, and I don't get it. I don't get it. Ryan continues, and I think as a showrunner, I have to keep my practical producer hat on and my creative writer, lover of the material hat on at the same time. At the end of the day, I just have to keep marching not only the writing process forward, but also the practical parts of the process forward for the sake of the crew, the cast, and for HBO, because that's my job. So I can only hope that George and I can rediscover that harmony someday, but that's what I have to say about it. There's nothing, he goes on, there's nothing we do on the show without talking it through and thinking about it very deeply, usually for many months, if not years. I will just say that the creative decisions that we make in the show all flow through me, every single one of them. It's like, okay, Miss Trunchbull, and this is, every single decision flows through me, okay, girl, and we still think it's whack. And this is the show that I want to make and believe as a fan of Fire and Blood and a deep reader of this material. It is the adaptation that we should be making to not only serve Fire and Blood, but also a massive television audience. And so Ryan he gives me very much, I'm gonna change whatever I want to change. Y'all gonna have to just be mad about it. And it don't give me Rafe Judkins from Wheel of Time, where book cloaks will argue that he changes a lot, but I still think that Rafe's changes have enhanced the plot, have enhanced the core of who these characters are, and we could argue about that, whatever, but who these characters are, who we trying to let them be in 2025, you see what I'm saying? I mean, people might disagree with that, but I mean, hey, but still, I'm just at this place where it's rubbing me the wrong way that Ryan is over here talking about every decision flows through me, and and this is what we should be making, when at the same time, you are acting like George or HBO, the showrunner, whatever, acting like George is being so unreasonable, and he's just an old man who can't see that, making TV costs a whole bunch of money. And, we have to not only cater to the book people, but we have to cater to the show people. And that is true. Catering to the show people is true. Like sometimes book things just simply do not translate to the show, period. But like I said, I think George understands that. And even still, these changes that y'all are making are illegitimate to the point where fans are complaining. It's not just George complaining. Like, fans are looking at this, especially with the bad taste in our mouth from Game of Thrones Season 8, like, And for y'all to not even display any sense of, you know what, we hear the fans, we hear George, the author. We thought we made something that y'all would really like, that y'all getting into. But we'll take it into account. We'll take what y'all have to say into account. It's none of that. It's very much like, girl, get over it. Like, that's what it feels like, girl, get over it. And so it don't make me feel good for season 3. It doesn't, like, y'all are trying to plan all these prequels, sequels, whatever. It's just, I don't know. Like, if HBO is this comfortable with making the author mad, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, why would that bring up trust in us? Especially after season 8. Like, how would that get us to trust you? Especially with these responses where it's like, oh, well, girl, whatever. I know at the end of the day, companies don't care about opinions online. They care about views. So even if people hate watching it, they don't care. They're getting money. I get that. But I'm like, do you want to have this kind of stuff follow y'all throughout the entirety of this multiverse that you're trying to make? Where, oh, well, we know that the author don't like it. Like, is this what the kind of PR y'all want? I mean, okay, girl, we gonna see. That battle of the gauntlet better be good, girl. It better be good. At the very least, it better be good. So yeah, I think season 3 has 8 episodes, like we were saying. I think it's crazy across the board, from Wheel of Time to House of Dragon, whatever, for us to be only having 8 episode seasons. I think that's crazy. What type of story we gonna be able to tell with that? But yeah, wrapping up. Though HBO has yet to make a formal announcement, it looks like season 4 will be the final season of House of the Dragon. I mean, any longer and y'all would be I mean, at this, I don't know. I'm not gonna say nothing until I see that first episode, girl. That's it. Okay, and I was gonna read the last part, like what he says, this quote here, the last part of this article, but it's a nothing burger, so we can just end the video here. So yeah, girl, I don't know. I just wouldn't want, if I was a company, I just would not want the PR of the author constantly dragging the shows. And considering that in my opinion, from the way the author explained it, even in his deleted post, he don't sound like he's being unreasonable. He don't even sound like he's being like picky. You know what I mean? It don't even sound like it sounds like he understands TV, and even within that realm of understanding that changes need to be made, that the changes that y'all made, especially we looking from Game of Thrones season 8 till now to House of the Dragon, it's not cute. And I don't think he should shut up. And that's my thing. I don't think he should just be quiet because y'all are mad that y'all are butchering his stuff. I don't think he should just be quiet. Anyway, thank y'all so much for watching. Tell me what you think about all of this in the comments, and I'll check y'all out later. Peace. Make sure that you're going to www.zeraxia.com. When you join the waitlist there on the site, you will be the first to be notified when I drop my sequel. Also, you'll immediately get chapter 1 of my upcoming sequel of the upcoming book sent to your email as a PDF. So check that out. Also, this is a different excerpt from my upcoming book, so you definitely want to pause to read if you're trying to get your life. Keep in mind that this upcoming book, the sequel, is following up the first book that is already released called Zeraxia, Wrath of the God King. I released it a few years ago. It was my introduction to writing fantasy and stuff. So just go easy on me. But either way, as you can see here, it's given 4.9 stars. It's given 4.9 stars. So yeah, check out Zeraxia, Wrath of the God King while you wait for Zeraxia, The Vengeance of Coldwind, right? And go to Zeraxia.com, sign up, join the waitlist, get your free chapter. Thank you so much.